Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now March 6th of 2023, and as we get close to episode 2 of Mando Season 3, a lot of Star Wars fans out there are also looking forward to new announcements arriving for the Ahsoka Tano series, which by the way is going to be released by this fall by Dave Filoni, starring Rosario Dawson and bringing in characters like Thrawn, Ezra Bridger, Sabine Wren, Era Syndulla, and even introducing some fan-favorite Legends characters that are going to be substantial to the plot. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, jumping back to the Acolyte, we know and have been talking about this for quite a long time now, but the Acolyte is a show that has been a very complex production for various reasons. Multiple reasons, of course, being associated with Kathleen Kennedy and how she's been really mistreating the entire lore of Star Wars with this show in specifically, of course. We know that the Acolyte has been going through a lot of reshoots, a lot of rewrites, and a lot of setbacks and delays. That's why you're not really hearing too much about the show, and you may only hear a little bit about it at Celebration this year, not all that much. We might get a release date at most for the Acolyte series. Now, when jumping ahead to where we stand today, there's been a lot of test footage that has been provided by Kathleen Kennedy to the Disney higher-ups, and so far the higher-ups have been very unimpressed and really not all that confident in what they recently saw for the Acolyte series and exactly how it flows as a story and what kind of footage was shot. So we're going to be jumping into exactly what Kathleen Kennedy presented most recently, and a lot of it has to do with the opening sequence for the Acolyte. Now, right now, Kathleen Kennedy is deeply struggling with the Acolyte show, where it's noted that just recently Kathleen Kennedy presented the test footage of the opening scene to Disney higher-ups, and so far, they have not been impressed with any of this as of yet. Further, it's described that the opening scene is set to feature 2 Sith characters that are plotting a plan to infiltrate the Jedi Order, and specifically the Jedi Temple on Coruscant that takes place at the tail end of the High Republic era. Now, further, it's said that the opening scene specifically involves a sequence in which it showcases a scene inside of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant during the events of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, with a new villain of some kind posing as a Jedi and masking his way through the dark side. This is actually said to be a short 45-second or so clip during Episode 1 that then cuts back to a title sequence stating 60 years before the events of The Phantom Menace, focusing on the 2 Sith Lords training on a world that appears to be very barren in the middle of a field with tall grass, training with 2 Crimson Blade lightsabers. Now, the character's name goes under the codename of Aura and Theo. Theo is said to be a more ancient-looking Sith. Now, let me just pause here quickly for a second. Now, we know that LUCASFILM and Disney seems to currently have a lot of interest in showcasing the Jedi Temple and Coruscant in various projects. We've seen this in Kenobi, we've seen it in Mando, we've seen it in Book of Boba Fett in some areas. Basically, a lot of it has to do so far with flashbacks, for the most part, when it comes to the Jedi Temple and Coruscant overall. And in this scenario, it's kind of serving as a flash forward in a sense, where the opening scene starts off with an ancient Sith and a young Sith training against each other on this barren wasteland of a planet that holds this small group of Sith that are actually in hiding and pre-planning something that's going to take 60 plus years to infiltrate the Jedi Order properly. Now, the thing about this too is that what's really striking to me is how a Jedi is not able to sense a Sith masking oneself as a Jedi per se. Now, we get it, sure, Palpatine did something similar as a politician, really kind of posing as a politician and really, pre-planning a lot of things in the shadows. So basically, the Acolyte is Kathleen Kennedy's version of the prequels, where it's all about infiltrating the Jedi Order in some cases, right? And the problem that I do have with this in particular is that if I find it a little hard to believe that the Jedi or all the Jedi in the Jedi Temple would not be able to sense a Sith who is posing as a Jedi. To me, it just kind of doesn't really make all that much sense, but I digress. Moving on forward, alright, to the next big thing here is that on top of this, alright, part of the revelation of the Acolyte is set to establish that the Sith were indeed not fully extinct, and that there was a small surviving group of Sith on a world near the unknown regions. During this training session, Theo is teaching Aura on how to embrace both the light and the dark in order to pose as a Jedi one day to infiltrate the Jedi Order. Disney executives are said to be truly turned off by this entire scene, and are looking for a way to either completely reshape the meaning of it, or authorize a full reshoot of the opening scene for the Acolyte show. Now, Theo is actually set to appear just like Darth Vitiate. Now, Darth Vitiate is a character from the Old Republic. However, this character, Theo, is said to resemble the character, alright? Now, the Jedi Temple is said to look different in various stages in the flash forward. That actually is going to be a big part of the Acolyte opening scene. And Yoda, surprisingly, was originally supposed to be in this flash forward, but was actually cut by Kathleen Kennedy. That's another thing that I do want to point out here, is that Yoda was supposed to have a very big scene in the Acolyte show, and it was supposed to be in the very beginning of the series, so that of course matches directly up with this. Now again, like I said before, the problem that I have with the Acolyte so far in this scene in particular, and I'm kind of happy that Disney is having an issue with this, because to have a Jedi posing as, or a Sith I should say, posing as a Jedi, that seems like it would kind of be something very out of the norm to actually go undetected. You know, I'm not quite sure how they're going to be able to canonize this or make this really happen or work without the Jedi or any Jedi out there, even Yoda, not realizing that there's any kind of dark presence around in any vicinity. So, yes, like I said before, Palpatine did do something similar where he's posing as this politician, where he's posing as Chancellor. And yeah, that worked, but at the same exact time, he wasn't really posing as, you know, this powerful Jedi working his way through the Jedi Order, right? So that's one thing that I do have a bit of a problem with, is that now, not only do you have Palpatine posing as somebody that he's not, you're also going to have somebody else posing as somebody that they are not at the same exact time that Palpatine is doing this. So it almost sounds like that Palpatine's using his own way to initiate a infiltration of the Jedi Order, but then on the other end of the spectrum, you have somebody else that's doing something similar. And this, I think, falls in line with the retcons that Leslie Headland was talking about, of how the Acolyte is going to have a big impact on how you view Revenge of the Sith. So anyways, guys, you know, fill me in below in the comments what you guys have to say about all of this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.